again. Okay, so back to that summary. We're going to do introductions first. Then we're going to be looking at, I'm going to do some change work with you to find out, because one of the things I think the critic, well, not I think, I know, the critic will play up if you're working towards a goal and it doesn't notice that things are changing. Good morning, Grace. Good afternoon, even. I don't know what time of day it is, do I? So please feel free to start your video, Grace, and let's see your wonderful smile. It'd be great for you to join us. So the idea, just doing a summary, introductions, then we're going to look at change, something that's changed, and then we're going to look at asking you to celebrate that in some way with us. I won't tell you any more than that because I'll explain each part as we go through. And at the end, we're just going to, I'd like you to feedback what you've got from today, what you've learned, if anything, might be nothing. And I set it up thinking we could only have anything from 20 to 50, so we might all be done in 20 minutes if there's only 4 of us on the call. 5 of us? I'll better include, 4 including me, isn't it? So we'll just see how it goes. So if we start, Grace, can I just check, there's a chat box if you put your mouse down the bottom so you can write messages if you want, but I can't hear you at the moment. And if you wave your mouse towards the left, you'll have a mute button and a start video button so that we can hear and see you. Unless, of course, you'd like to be muted. It'd be great if we can hear you. If not, I will leave it assuming Grace is listening in and enjoying the process. So if we start with introductions then. So who you are, where you're from, or where you are currently right now, actually, geographically, and also what would you like to know before we begin celebrating your changes? So who'd like to start?
I can if you like, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm Mary. I live in Cornwall, in North Cornwall, just inland from the wonderful rugged coast I love so much. I've lived here most of my life, not all of it. I wasn't born in Cornwall, I was born in Lyndhurst in Hampshire, in the New Forest, another very special place. So that was it, wasn't it, really? Having asked the question just now, I think you've told me what I need to know for now, and I'll do my best to be here for the whole time because I know it's such a magical process that you work with, Cheryl. So I'll do my best. I'm just aware there's sort of lists around the place that I've got done this evening, so I've got a workshop tomorrow. But I'll do my best to be here. If I just disappear for a minute, it probably means I'm listening, but I just nipped off somewhere to do something.
Absolutely. That's the lovely thing about Zoom. We can dip in and dip out, and we can take on these things as much as little as we want to. So nothing you need to know now. So Susie, that's who you are.
I'm Susie Fido. I run a company called Marketing with Ethics, which specialises in Google AdWords and Facebook for ethical businesses. I'm originally, I guess, from Portsmouth. I was there as a child, but travelled with the army. But currently living on the beautiful island of Kefalonia, and for the foreseeable future.
Somebody else with a lovely view, Mary. And is there anything you'd like to know before we begin, Susie?
Not before we begin, but I'm really interested to hear how different people celebrate the different levels of, things that they've achieved.
Cool, excellent. So, sorry, I just had a message come. I don't know what that is. Let's try and turn that off. I'm Cheryl Andrews. Those who don't know, I'm actually in Gosport, right on the south coast. We have a lot of people here by the sea. And what do I want to know before we begin? I don't think I need anything before. I'm a bit concerned, obviously, that Grace might be trying to get through to us. I'm just wondering, actually, if I grab my mobile phone, then at least I can check Facebook.
Oh, there we go.
There she is.
I'm eating my lunch.
I was trying to have my sandwich too, Grace, so you're not alone. You can do lunchtime if you want to, that's fab.
I thought I'd connect and eat my lunch at the same time. I'm all about multitasking at the moment.
Well, I was saying, actually, quite often when I celebrate is over a dinner, going out for a meal. So I think if you want to join, and I think I did put in the content, bring your lunch, bring your cups of tea or whatever, because I want you to better engage as little or as much as you want to through this call. I hope that this will be a call where we'll have 50 to 100 people on it in time, where we start to really celebrate the difference that we each make and start to get to know each other as well. So So what I want to know is that as Grace is okay. So as you're now on and you can speak, I'm a little bit more aware. So Grace, would you like to introduce yourself, please? And did you hear what we were doing for introductions?
No, I didn't. Sorry, I rushed out quickly and just got back already when you started.
No problem. So just who you are and where you are right now, geographically.
Okay.
And if there's anything you'd like to know before we begin.
Nothing that I want to know before we begin. I'm still plodding through your book, but I'll get there eventually. I'm Grace McGilvray, and I am the founder of a few things. I've recently just changed everything and put it all under one umbrella, branding myself, calling myself Complete Wellness with Grace. I'm a Reiki master, beauty and holistic therapist. I've got 2 businesses that I run. I work part-time as well. And I'm all about natural products and not putting all these nasty chemicals and that onto our body and within the body. So it's all about natural products and just about helping people how they can change their lives. There is ways of doing it, and I'm based in Chandler's Ford, and yes, I'm excited to be here. I'm always out to learn more and hear more and connect with people. So yeah, I love Zoom. I do all my team meetings and classes and that via Zoom. So it is a lovely concept.
Fabulous. Excellent. So for those who are not looking at the recording later, Chandler's Ford is in southern England, because we have got people from Australia and the States that may well look at this when it's a more sociable time for them to do it. So the idea then today, just that is I want you to, if you've got pen and paper handy, I want you to just now think of a time in the past. It could be last week, it could be yesterday, it could be last month, last year. Just choose a time and just focus on what was happening at that time. Because this celebration can be for you personally, for your business, for family, friends. Where you put your attention is entirely up to you. There's no rules or suggestion. But I want you to first of all pick a time and just think about this thing that you want to celebrate and acknowledge what was happening then. Another question might be, so, and when it was like that, that was like what? Okay. And now I want you to think about what is happening now. And then the last question is, what kind of change is that change? Okay, lots of quiet time now, but now I'm going to invite you now to share with us what kind of change is that change. So I don't know how it is on you guys. I'm going to go with Susie just because she's off the top left-hand corner. Then I'm going to do Grace, and then I'm going to do Mary. I'm going to go around like that. And it would have been a really good idea if I joined in because that was my intention. So I might have to think about mine on the spot in a minute. I could have been, instead of staring at you guys writing, I could have been writing my own answers now. I don't know if I find it. So Susie, what kind of change is that change?
Just the change itself, not the other questions. That kind of change is like a huge weight lifted off my shoulders, and that I'm really living the life that I wanted to live for the first time at the age of 47.
So great weight off your shoulders, and you're living the life that you want to live at the age of 47.
Yeah.
Fab. And Grace, what kind of change is that change for you?
Also, I had to make quite a big decision about stepping down from another MLM company, and that weight was also lifted off my shoulders, and I know now the direction I want to go. So it is a very positive and a happy change.
Positive and happy change, and another weight off your shoulders.
Yeah.
And Mary, what kind of change is that change?
Yeah. First of all, I just wrote growth, and then wrote blossoming. And I didn't say at the beginning, as you probably know, Grace and Susie, you know, my business is called Dare to Blossom Life Coaching. It's about blossoming myself to enable the growth of my business. Yeah, wasn't that just recently?
I'm squinting because it's gone a bit fuzzy, and I can just about hear you, Mary. I don't know.
Sorry. I don't know if it would help if I turn my sound up.
Maybe.
My connection's very poor here, I'm afraid. I mean,
yeah, it dropped out and you came back. But so if I repeat back what I think I've heard, and you correct me if I've misheard. So it's growth, and your business is Dare to Blossom, and it's about you blossoming. Is that what I heard?
Yes, more or less. Any better now?
Not really. There's a background noise. Don't worry. I'll soon zone the background noise out and focus on your voice.
Thank you. Sorry
about
that.
The technology and the baby.
I know. There's no noise at this end. I can hear noise, but it's not at my end. It's somewhere.
No, it's like a feedback thing. The only thing I can suggest is sometimes if we log off, not all of us, but if you log off and come back in again, you might get, it's a bit like the old telephone lines when you used to get a party line and you had to hang up and call again so you didn't connect again. So I don't know if you want to try. I don't know whose it is, or whether it's all of us, because can anybody else hear the feedback?
I can now. I couldn't just now, but it might just be because you pointed it out.
All right.
I wonder if it's my radio.
Okay. Well, ignore it, and it'll be fine. I can hear you. It's just that noise at the top.
Okay.
I'll mute myself. Just see if. Sorry.
That's what I was going to say. It helps if we mute ourselves sometimes.
If I mute myself, see if the noise goes away.
Okay. It did.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what we'll do then, if that's the case,
I'll mute myself.
Yeah. If you mute yourself when you're not talking, then.
Yeah.
And then when it's your turn, unmute yourself, and then we can hear you. Fab. So do you want to say that again, Mary, so we can hear you lovely and clearly?
Okay. What kind of change is that change? First, I wrote growth, and then as I realised when others were speaking on the introductions that I hadn't actually said anything about my business. My business name is Dare to Blossom Life Coaching, and what's happening for me in terms of growth is more blossoming. and more stronger roots, it feels like, as well. It feels like really strong roots and being able to support more blossoming.
Okay.
So that change is about that for me.
Fabulous. So the invitation now is that when you've got a weight off your shoulders, one of the things that can happen with change is sometimes the change is really, really subtle and it's really small and we don't notice it. So a bit when you say about growth and the metaphor of blossoming is sometimes it's like you've planted the seed, sometimes the change is happening and it's underneath the ground and you can't see it at all, or it's coming out and it's just a little bit of a shoot. So you'd have to really be looking to see the growth. And sometimes when a plant's growing, it can have lots of new shoots and you're completely oblivious to it because you kind of got used to just seeing the plant there. So I'm using your company name as a bit of a metaphor to describe it. But what I found with coaching and facilitating people and feeding back stuff is that I sometimes would notice things were different, but they hadn't noticed as a client. So a client might have come to their first call going, well, I kind of don't really know what I'm going to do. So they're going, right, what I want to do is this. And it's like, they are not consciously aware that their whole physiology, is that my word, has changed, or their tone or their pace. So one of the activities that I do on the modules is actually getting people to pay attention to the change. Even if you say, I know small changes in your language might be, I'm always tired to I'm sometimes tired. Just that small change in what you're saying in your language, if you can pay attention to those words, and notice it, then the critic becomes a little bit more restful because it kind of knows that there's progress being made. Whereas if you looking at your field thinking nothing's growing and you're starving hungry, you start to panic because you're not going to get what you need to get. So if you know there's food on the way, it all tends to calm it down. That's a metaphor, by the way. It's not always about food, except for in my world. So with that in mind, one of the things that with coaching, when somebody repeats it back to you, you get to hear it. But what I've also been playing around with people on celebrations is that sometimes we don't necessarily feel it. Have you ever had someone say to you, well done, and you've sort of gone, and it kind of lands somewhere in front of you and it doesn't really land on you? You don't really feel like it's a well done or a congratulations, or can you just do a thumbs up if we're doing muting? If anything I'm saying is making sense. Yeah, well, Grace has done a runner, she's gone. So I'm not doing that. So if and I think that's to do with us physically updating our system. So if we're, depending how we process information, depending how we hear it, how we experience it, we might not really feel it or believe it. And so what I've been playing around with, if you watch sports people, they will celebrate their change by going, oh, yeah, 1 second faster. So they'll put a punch in the air. And I've realized I'm talking and then my video is about 10 seconds behind me now, which has just put me off. So when you physically celebrate it, so like when people do like go out and have a drink or have a meal or whatever, they celebrate it, then that will, it does something to the body to physically update the system. And it's a way of making sure your memories are accurate. Because I think sometimes we're making decisions, we haven't noticed the change, then we're making new decisions based on the wrong information because we're noticing the improvement that's happening. So I'm going to I'm just checking. Yeah, I'm going to ask you a few more questions about the change first so that we get more of the auditory update. But I want you to also be thinking about how would you like us on this call today to physically celebrate your change with you? Because there's a way of celebrating it for you and us being your reflection so that you can see and hear it and experience it the other way around as well. So Susie, if I get you to unmute yourself, honey.
Okay.
So when a weight off your shoulders and living your dream, is there anything else about that dream?
Yes, just I feel younger, I feel healthier, I feel happier than I've ever felt before. And I think that what I do find is my inner critic keeps trying to pop up occasionally and say something's going to go wrong, it's almost too good. And then, but I'm actually getting much better now at battling it back, going, hey, we've overcome worse and we can overcome it again.
And so when it feels really good, whereabouts does it feel really good?
In my stomach.
In your stomach.
It's a real knot in my, stomach and upper stomach. It's, yeah.
It's
and
a knot.
I start to feel a little bit emotional, and I can feel like, oh, and I don't do crying.
So I'm going to leave you to take a moment to draw or represent that knot when it feels good and you're living the dream and you feel younger and happier than you've ever felt before. So if you can take a moment to draw or represent your knot, that would be fab. And Grace, when you've got a change that is also a weight off your shoulder, and I think the word you said was, and you know you're going in the right direction, is there anything else about that change?
Yeah, the focus is a bit more focused. I don't have the extra additional stress of having to run 2 MLMs. And yeah, I know the direction I'm going is the correct direction, and I feel it in my heart and my solar plexus. So yeah, it's happiness for me.
And you know it, and you feel it in your heart and your solar plexus.
Yeah.
And when you feel it in your heart, that's like what? Emotional
happiness, gratitude. Yeah, could be quite a list of things actually. But yeah, mainly gratitude for what's actually transpired and giving me the focus to actually do what I'm doing. I just got to warn you, my internet is playing up and it's going on and off. So if I do disappear, I apologize. But I had this the other night. I was busy talking, and the next minute my team member said, "Where are you? You've disappeared." So I apologize if I do go off.
The universe gave you a break from speaking.
True,
okay.
true.
Just use if you go quiet, just use the time to reflect and just notice what you're noticing. So what I'm hearing is that you have a feeling in your heart and in your solar plexus, and it's a feeling of gratitude and a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
And when that's what feeling is in your heart, what's happening to solar plex?
It feels light, if that makes any sense. There's no tension, there's no pressure, it's just like a lightness.
There's no tension and no pressure, and the lightness of the solar plex, and emotion and gratitude in the heart. So can I leave you to draw represent that?
Okay.
And Mary.
Okay.
So, and when growth and blossoming, is there anything else about that change?
It feels like reaching towards the light. So I've got to do actions. It feels like reaching, like this plant that's really flourishing and is shooting up in all directions and reaching out. I got some beautiful photographs yesterday in Foy of a plant that had loads of new tendrils on and was busy reaching out along the wall and all sorts of places. That's what it feels like.
So it's like reaching out. And is there anything else about that reaching when it's like that?
It feels easy, it feels effortless.
It's easy and effortless. Okay. So I just want you to take some time now to draw represent that. And I'm going to leave you with a bit of time to do that. And then we're going to start with Susie. And just think about how can we celebrate your change with you?
Sorry, I started doing my usual. I drew a picture and then it's like, no, I know how I want it to picture. So with my creative side, I was trying to find the picture on Google. And I've just realised that won't actually help at all because you won't be able to see it.
Well, you can share the screen if you want me to see it.
I haven't managed to find it yet. Well, you know the image anyway. The khaki vest top, shorts, walking boots, with a big explosion in my stomach. So that was the picture. But trying to find that on there was impossible. How would I like us to celebrate? I don't know. It's just kind of being able to share it with other people that, you know, yes, this is what, you know, this is the difference in what, how long? 2 years now, but the actual change only took a year. So still kind of getting my head around the fact that it's real and it's here and it's staying. So yeah,
just over a year that you've been there now, isn't it?
It's 15 months tomorrow. Not that we're counting still.
So when celebrating with you is about sharing, what kind of sharing is that sharing?
It's actually sharing other people's celebrations, because you tell me off it all the time. I struggle to like do woohoo celebrating myself. I mean, we give ourselves pats on the back. We do go out and celebrate if it's a big thing. The minor things, it's just like ticking it off feels good. But I still struggle with other people telling me, yeah, that's great, well done. So,
and we'll clarify later what you mean by I tell you off. I'm not sure that's really what happens. Anyway, in your map of the world, something I do is perceived as a telling off, so I take that on board. Now, when you're sharing, and it's about sharing other people's celebrations, what kind of celebration is that for you?
Just seeing, you know, people light up when they're saying something great that's happening, and when it's something that they're really passionate about themselves. Just when I see other people light up when they're talking about their own, I can almost celebrate my own one at the same time, because it's like, I know that feeling. I have that feeling as well, so I can then relate to it.
So you can almost celebrate yours when you can almost celebrate yours when they're lighting up.
I can celebrate mine. I find it difficult for other people to celebrate mine, because although I'm a creator, I'm not kind of the limelight person. I don't like being the central person that everyone, you know, sort of like, no, I can sit there and go, yeah, I've done good. And I never used to be able to do that. So I celebrate the fact that I can pat myself on the back now, instead of just going, yep, that's done, move on to the next thing. So to me, that's a huge achievement in itself.
And so sharing is celebrating.
But people sharing their achievements and their celebrations. So being able to tell people that I've done it and seeing the smile, and that's great. But hearing their achievements and what they've done, and I can sit there and then I get that knot in my stomach, because I can see the emotion in their face about their achievements, and it's like, yeah, I know that feeling, I know how you feel, kind of thing.
And so when you're sharing and you can see the smile in their face, and when they're sharing theirs and they light up, you think, oh, I know that, I get that feeling.
Yeah.
And so for a moment, Mary, we're going to give a big smile to Susie for her change that she's made to move to Kefalonia 15 months ago and live the dream, and the weight off her shoulder, and smile.
Don't, you're going to start me off again.
So what's just happened?
It's something that we've wanted to do for several years. We had this huge plan in place how to do it, and this business just literally just came along, and it happened. Well, I say it happened. Obviously, we made it happen, but it was never in the plan for us to get here via, you know, working this business. But when I think, when you asked us to go back to a previous time and the difference in that, the time I actually went back to was when my IT contract first stopped. And we literally had £350 a month income and an £800 a month rent, let alone any other bills. And we came so close to losing the business, to having to give up and go and get normal jobs. And it's just the fact that sometimes I sit there and I think, if we hadn't have really pushed at it and really stuck at it, and, you know, in all honesty, come to you and got clarification on our message and everything like that, we wouldn't be sitting here now. You know, we would have given up on it, because we couldn't continue any longer than we did. And when people say that, you know, they don't have time or money to invest when things are down on a business, to me, that's when you need to do it more than ever. Because that's when the external support doesn't have that same emotional link.
I'm going to stop you from celebrating me instead of you for a moment, because I love you. And I'm quite happy to be celebrated, and we can always do that later. But I want you to notice that when we smiled and it made you cry, and I'm not trying to make you cry, by the way, that's not my intention, but what I want you to do is just take a moment and just notice what is happening for you now. Because I think my experience is telling me, and I do it as well, I'm just as guilty, that when people, we can't acknowledge it for ourselves, and when other people do it, we kind of dismiss it. And I think that emotion, that's love, that's joy, that's celebration, if we could embrace it more, we could embody it, and we could really believe it, and we could hold on to it, both intellectually and physically, then we would communicate with ourselves and others from a much better place more often.
I do roughly once a week. I do roughly once a week. I just look out the window and just go, oh my God, we live here. And as soon as I think about that, it just gets me all emotional again. It doesn't even need to be anybody else around.
And so when emotional, I want to leave you to think about, that's emotional like what? I'm going to let you ponder that one. So Mary, when you've got growth and reaching out and it's tentacles and new, can't remember what you called them.
Tendrils, yes.
Yeah, it was tentacles, wasn't it? Like new tentacles coming out. How would you like us to celebrate that reaching and new tentacles and growth?
Oh gosh, how would I like you to celebrate it? It's so hard doing this stuff. Yeah.
But just be curious for the moment. What is happening for you right now?
Being in the centre of attention feels awkward. What's happening for me? And that's sort of, oh no, hide away and be shy, which is, I don't know why that happens. So I've achieved lots in my life, and people have said well done and celebrated with me quite a lot. Other things people haven't, and maybe that's part of the emotion part. There's a saying that I really like when I'm thinking about emotion for myself, and it's energy in motion. So maybe that emotion and the tears is something arising that's valuable. It's energy that's valuable. So how would I like you to celebrate? I'd like you to go, yeah, with me too.
Okay. Ready then, Susie?
Yeah.
Yay! And when we go yay like that with you, what happens?
It makes me laugh. It makes me feel good.
And when it makes you laugh and it makes you feel good, whereabouts does it make you feel good?
It's sort of my heart. It is my heart. It's also almost in my lungs, as if I can really breathe, and it's letting in energy, oxygen to help the growth, I suppose, to keep that process moving and flowing. So I've been doing this is opening the lungs, isn't it? Opening the chest, and it's something about that. It's about, of course, the heart is the power, the pump for the oxygen that comes in through the lungs. So it's all connected physiologically, but it's also connected in an emotional and spiritual sense, I think, too.
And so it's heart and lungs and open like that. And so there's a bit of curiosity. When you were smiling to celebrate with Susie, and Susie, when you're doing this with Mary, what was happening for you then?
Okay, who are you asking first?
I'll ask you because you're on live. That'd be easier, wouldn't it?
It felt beautiful. It felt like we were celebrating with Susie, and if we're in the room together, I'd give her a big hug and say, "Well done! It's great, amazing." I'd love to be in the room with you in your beautiful place where you are. Actually,
she's arranging a retreat one time so we can all go out together.
June 2019.
2019 is it now?
June 2019.
Okay. We'll put it in the diary. Well, it looks like Mary's frozen, but hopefully she'll come back in a moment. Not literally, hopefully. So Susie, what was happening for you when you were celebrating with Mary? When you're doing this?
It felt great fun. It felt as though it was really supporting, but at the same time, I had that knot in my stomach of like, yeah, I know how it feels. So it's kind of almost celebrating myself, but the same as celebrating Mary.
Fabulous. Well, hopefully Mary will come back at some point, and we'll have her on. Huh?
Great.
She's gone from there. She'll hopefully log back on. I just wonder whether to give it a moment. So I'll start anyway, just in case I don't get back on. It's just to go. But the bit that I wanted to talk about today is that for me, and I want to share this with people on the call, because there might be people who haven't developed the muscle to notice change, that they don't know how to celebrate it. You and Mary actually have worked with me on and off, so you've been conditioned slightly. Grace was, I've known her online, but this is the first time we've really sort of spoke together. So those that are actually watching the video live, on replay, it's that if you are that kind of person that actually right now you're finding it difficult to celebrate for other people, I just wanted to tell you about my experience, because whilst I was always considered by everybody else on the outside that I was a really kind, generous, loving, helpful person, and I was being nice, actually inside what used to happen is I couldn't feel, when you talk about being able to feel it, Susie, I would watch people celebrating and I would feel envy and jealousy. And it's because I hadn't ever spent any time celebrating who I was. So I had no memory recall of a celebration of something. And because I didn't know what I liked, because I was so busy pleasing everybody else, I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what worked for me. Hi, Gavin. One of the things that I challenged with is when other people were celebrating, I didn't have a memory recall of celebration for myself. I wasn't able to reflect back, because it was like they were speaking a foreign language. I didn't understand it. I didn't have any comprehension of it. And so this is why it becomes really important, because I think if you don't know what you want, what you love, what your strengths are, and you don't know how to celebrate it, and you don't know how to change it, it also then becomes very difficult to celebrate with other people. And so then it becomes difficult to give them praise, to give them recognition, to tell them when they're doing well. So even when I was trying to praise people, it wasn't very sincere. And I still think I'm a bit of a work in progress, because it's better with my clients because I can map it out and think about it for a little while, because I can think about what you've done and what's changed. But actually, so I don't, that's the point of that video, is if you're watching this and you're thinking, when Susie says, oh, I can feel it because I really resonate with it, I was that person that couldn't resonate with it. I used to find it really difficult when, so I would probably have been that person that thought somebody who was celebrating their successes and was talking about everything, I'd be calling them arrogant, boastful, full of themselves, because I couldn't relate to that joy of achieving something, because I had no conscious awareness that I was even achieving anything.
I still like that about just one person.
Pardon?
I am still like that about one person, and I have to keep stopping myself. Everybody else, it's genuine, but there's one person who I did my original AdWords training course with, who has become an absolute high flyer, major Google AdWords management, has flown off to Google headquarters now, being shortlisted in Las Vegas and everything. And I see her statuses go on Facebook because we're friends on Facebook, and I do still have that feeling towards her sometimes. But everyone else, no, there's just something about her. But I think that's down to my thing of I like to be number one. I like to be the best at everything I do. And I feel as though it's almost like she's being better than me because she's bigger, but we don't want to be that big. And I have to keep convincing myself of that.
Yeah, and I will say to anybody that's watching the replay, if you start to find it difficult to celebrate yourself or other people, be curious about it, because what's the gift? Because what I discovered is that if I was judging them, if I was criticizing them, if I was name calling, by the way, I didn't do it to their face, I just did it in my head. I didn't say it out loud, I just thought it. I wasn't that brave. Is that I had to then stop and think about what I used to find is either I was guilty of doing the behavior which is, we talk about it in a book called Reflections. Or either I was saying they shouldn't be doing, I found out I did do. That was a bit of a shocker. Or secondly, it was like, I really wish I could. And so it's just checking with yourself. With when you have that kind of it's a good way to actually check in and find out what's that going to teach me right now. So Gavin, welcome to our Zoom party. We're a smaller number than we were kind of hoping for. We're not hoping for. I'm setting myself up that eventually these will be regular parties, and we'll be on here for like 50 of us. And as there's only 3-4 now, we had somebody whose internet's just dropped out. I'll probably log us lot off at 3, and then if anybody else comes on, I'll just do another version of it again, and then you can catch up on the recordings later on. So, would you like to say who you are and where you're from?
Yeah, I'm Gavin Meikle. I'm from Portsmouth, originally from Scotland, but living in Portsmouth now.
Yeah, and that's the UK for anybody else that's abroad.
Yeah,
just in case they don't know that bit. And the question we asked everybody was, before we begin, what would you like to know?
I'm curious about how other people celebrate their successes. Not necessarily from a point of copying them, but just curiosity, and maybe I'm missing out on a few tricks probably along the way. Okay.
So what we'll do now is we will go around and actually find out, how do you celebrate in whatever way that might be. And then what we'll do is we'll come back around, Gavin, because we actually ask people to think about some times, a time before and a time after, and what's changed, and actually how would you like us to celebrate it with you on the call today. But I'll recap those questions in a moment. I'll carry on through now. So should we start with you, Susie? Can I get you to mute it in between, Gavin, because we've discovered that there's a lot of feedback if we have everybody's mics open. So Susie, how do you celebrate? When you celebrate at your best, that's like what?
Celebrating big achievements is usually, first of all, put the Facebook post on. Obviously, with our business being Facebook, I want to tell the world. But to be honest, it's actually going out for a meal and a few drinks.
Okay.
So when you client, that's what we do.
So you put it on Facebook and go out for a meal and some drinks. And when you put it on Facebook, then what happens?
I then ignore it until I've come back from the few drinks and the meal.
When you ignore it, then what happens? When you
I tend to have a lot of comments or likes or whatever when I come back, which then kind of gives you that warming and glow. See, I can have other people say well done and celebrate with me from afar in word format. It's the face-to-face that I find more difficult and more awkward. Unless it's someone that we're specifically going out to celebrate with.
And so when you come back and you've got all those comments, you get that warm feeling in your heart.
Yeah.
And you're okay about it doing in words from afar, but not when it's face-to-face.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to check in with Mary now, but I always want you to be curious. When you celebrate and you have a drink and a meal, then what happens? So I'm going to leave you to think about it. And I'm going to come back.
Well, I won't give all the details.
Yeah, okay. Remember, this is a rated video. Yeah. It's going out.
It's just, I spent too much time just, if something happens good, then that's what should have happened. That's what I was working towards, and ignore it. And then sit and dwell if things weren't working and start trying to work out how to change it. So it's more a case of just checking in and saying, yeah, look, we've done this. So I have different celebrations for different, what I call levels of achievement. But the biggie, obviously, I would say is new clients. I mean, when we took on our dream client back in April, that was literally a scream and yell at the top of my lungs in the car as we drove away. And just burst into tears, and every time I thought about it for the next 3 months, burst into tears, because it was something we were so passionate about. So it depends on the level of what you've achieved as to how crazy we go when we celebrate.
Okay, so just notice for Susie, so she has levels of celebrating, and if it comes from a foreign word, she's okay with it, but if it's face-to-face, she's not. And there's something happens after a meal and a drink, but we're not going to discuss that right now. And if it's a really big high one, then it's a scream and tears, and that went on for 3 months. So who's different to that when they're celebrating?
Sorry, what was that?
I'm just asking who else is different to that. So if I get you to pop your mute on, honey, and we're gonna, whoever wants to come first, just who's different to celebrating like
that? Well, I'll come in there and say I'm definitely different from that.
So what happens to you when you celebrate?
Well, I'm not a great celebrator in a big demonstrable sense. We don't tend to go out for meals and things, particularly to celebrate business-related things. Particularly, it's not something I've ever really done in a business context. So, and I think it's interesting. I was hearing Susie talk about it, and I know lots of people who do that. But one of the things that I remember at one point, and this may be a positive or a negative thing, I don't know, was that when I was, I've lost a bit of weight, still got lots of weight to lose, and it's still one of my kind of focuses. And one of the things I suddenly thought was that we associate, this is what I was saying, it's how I associate, or a lot of people seem to associate celebration with food and drinking. And I thought, well, actually, there are lots of other ways to celebrate. So I've kind of almost made a conscious decision not to almost exclude food, and I'm not a big drinker anyway, so it's not something we do much of anyway. So but the funny thing is, it's the most obvious thing when I think of how would I celebrate. Well, I suppose we could go out for a meal or something, but it doesn't particularly turn me on, or my wife for that matter. So the challenge is, I think somehow it's harder to find more creative ways of celebrating.
So when you've purposefully switched off from the food and you've got your weight loss and you've lost some weight and you've got some more to lose, what is working to celebrate right now?
Well, I think for me, it's more, just kind of, fist pump in the air or something like that, or a whoop or a cheer or a yes, or maybe a kind of little dance or a shimmy around the house. I mean, a couple of times we've done it with my wife's been, and I've gone through and told her we've had some good news, and we had a little dance around the living room floor sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So I think physical things like that, when I remember to do them, are quite powerful for me.
And when you do a physical thing like that, like a whoop or a fist pump or a dance, then what happens?
It feels like it's because it's not what I would normally have done in the past, or when just something ordinary happens. I think it's like putting an exclamation mark in it. It amplifies that situation, amplifies the feeling.
And when it puts an exclamation mark in, and it amplifies the situation and the feeling, then what happens?
Then I think I remember it more, because otherwise when I don't celebrate it, it's those things I think we all have sometimes, where things happen and we kind of, oh, that was good, and if we don't celebrate them, we forget them, we forget the successes, and then sometimes you're more likely to dwell on the failures. So I think the good thing about celebrations is they're like putting a marker somewhere that says, yes, this did happen, and you lock it in place, like pinning something at your desktop or something to remind you.
So it's like, this did happen, and it locks it in place.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing with that.
Okay,
you put your mute on. Mary?
Okay, sorry I disappeared just then, right in the middle.
That's all right. Lovely to have you back.
Yeah, I missed whether you probably didn't do it because you were going to respond to how it felt when you were celebrating with me, but I missed that.
Yeah, I'll come back to that then in a moment, and I'll get Susie to recap for you, but it is on the video. We did carry on with the discussion so you could hear it. But,
you both froze as I realised I had to go away and come back again.
That's the joys of technology, isn't it? It happens. So when you're celebrating, that's like what?
It's interesting because until recently I don't celebrate business things very much, or I haven't done, and my husband's not particularly interested in what I do, and maybe that's my communication, that I'm not communicating what I do and how important it is to me. to him. So I'm looking at that in different ways. You haven't asked how I celebrate, you've asked what it's like. So I'll answer a different question actually. But,
that's the joy of being human. We can answer it however we want to.
Yes. So I mean, when I do celebrate, and I do it more on Facebook now, because most of the people who understand what I do are people I've met through Facebook and maybe in person as well. I'm doing a workshop in Cornwall tomorrow. I'll be meeting a group of people who come back regularly to my workshops, which is wonderful. And I always celebrate them and celebrate the fact that I've created that thing that they want to come to over and over again. It's always going to be a celebration. So it's like sharing. It's like being together with people you love, whatever, whichever way of love it is. When they're people I work with or clients, there's that sort of love that I have for them, and some of them are good friends too. So it's like being in a community and feeling togetherness, I suppose.
When it's in a community and togetherness, is there anything else about that celebrate? When in a community and togetherness.
I'm feeling emotional now too. In my family, both my birth family and my family of my husband, we didn't celebrate very much. And my husband, he doesn't like celebrations. He actually hate it if you arrange a surprise party or something for him. So we don't celebrate. So I make it happen. When we celebrate, it's me that makes it happen. So again, I've gone off the question altogether, but I had to respond to that because that was what's arising. That was the emotional part. So now I'm learning to make my own celebrations and do that a lot more.
And when you make your own celebrations, then what happens?
Still getting up these blocks coming up. I'm still getting the thing that Susie mentioned about, stop showing off, don't boast, don't blow your own trumpet. But actually, often I'm very proud or very happy just that something's happened that's been a culmination of a lot of work, perhaps, or a lot of background stuff going on, or whatever it is, So what's that like? It's just feel like milestones. It feels like being able to look back. So it's like you're saying, Gavin, just now about being that milestone that you can say, yeah, I achieved that and I celebrated that, and now I'm looking forward to the next thing.
And when it's milestones and looking back and you achieve that, and then it's looking for the next thing and you feel proud, whereabouts do you feel proud?
It's a funny sort of thing to say, perhaps, but it is actually, because I'm sitting up straighter as I think about it, it is actually standing up and feeling proud, because you're feeling, it's almost in my backbone. It's almost like, yeah, I did that. And there's no arguing with that. I did it, whatever it was, I did it. So it's not boasting or showing off. It's actually, yeah, I did that.
Yeah. And so thanks for sharing. I'm going to come around. Susie, do you want to share with, because we did a bit, I'll just let you know, Gavin, what happened. We started with the introduction, which we've now caught up with yourself. And we talked about just thinking about a time in the past and thinking about what was happening then and currently now what is happening and what's changed. And we were just sharing that change. And then we invited each other to say, how would you like us to celebrate that with you? And then I was just asking what that was like for the person being celebrated. And we were just comparing those experiences. And a beautiful white cat just appeared. And then Mary got cut off by the internet and she didn't hear what Susie was saying about what the experience was like for her. So if we go back and do that. So Susie, and should we just show Gavin, we have to do, because you might like this one, Gavin. So how do we have to celebrate with you, Mary? Should we have another go? Woo! So, Susie, when you're celebrating with Mary like that, that's like what?
It's fun. It feels supportive. Feels like I'm supporting someone else, but I also get that gut feeling of I know how she's feeling, because when I achieve something, I know that feeling for me as well.
Okay. So it's being supportive, and then it's that gut feeling, and you know how she's feeling. Fab. So what I'm interested in, has that changed at all, that feeling, now that we've got another person playing the game?
What, for me or for Mary?
For you, with Gavin now in here. No?
No.
Okay, so Mary, what was happening for you when everyone was celebrating it with you like that?
it strengthened it. Felt, cause I felt not silly, but I felt, oh, it's just me doing it when I did it to start with. And then, you know, all of you, and having Gavin join as well, which is wonderful, thank you. You know, it felt great. It felt like we're all together in the room as we are, sort of, and very supportive. And yeah, thank you for that.
You're welcome. And so just noticing it strengthens it. And this is the thing that I was finding, that because I'm got a sort of people pleaser mechanism, I'd be sort of watching for people's responses. So I also want to share this with you, though. So you do have to create a tribe of people, a support network, who it is safe to say to them, this is how I like to celebrate stuff. So some people, one of my clients, and I don't think she'll be this week when we're doing her celebration, it simply was, and that was it. So it doesn't always have to be really noisy and shouty. So I find it really difficult when someone does it really quiet, because I want to go, yay, because I'm a bit hyper. But actually it's about honouring how the other person wants to celebrate. So I see some people, like they want the other person to celebrate it. And they're kind of trying, but instead of finding out how they would like to celebrate it and what would work for them, to acknowledge it, because we have to meet people wherever they are. And I know for me that I would often tell somebody about it, because what works for me is actually the response. So when I got my book, and Kara, everyone says, oh, when you get your book the first time, it's going to feel great in your hands. It's like, I was like, oh, it's a book. When I got my first review and someone told me what they thought about it, and I had some feedback, then I had something that I could resonate against, if that makes any sense. And the day that I was in a networking event and said, my sister was really in trouble and I gave you your book and it's really helped, it's like I was hearing it and I was seeing the feedback from others. But so my challenge was that in order to celebrate stuff, I wanted external stimuli. And I'd often go and tell somebody, and this is a bit of the thing I want you to bear in mind, they were in the middle of something else, they would turn around and go, what? And that feedback made me go, oh, not that much of a deal then, is it? Because they've got no idea it's taken me all this courage to go up there and sort of brag about my successes. So please warn people that this is a process you're practicing. That's why creating peer support groups, that's why mastermind groups work. It's why peer coaching works, because it's a conscious thing to do it. But if you're going to do it with friends and family, you might need to let them know it's important, that it strengthens your pride and your self-confidence and the other things. But also be consciously aware of what you need to hear and see. So Susie, by the way, Gavin, was a smile. So it was a bit, I think we've all frozen now. So my lips aren't keeping up with my face, which is really disconcerting. So I can see myself behind. So I just looked at what those, it's like one of those cartoon characters. So the question then for you, Gavin, is I was just checking with you, if it's okay. It's a bit on the spot, and everybody else did get some time to reflect. But if I get you to unmute yourself. So just thinking back to a time, and just have the thought for the moment rather than verbally articulating it. Think about something that was happening in the past, and what was happening for you then. That was like what?
Mm-hmm.
And then thinking about what is happening now. And what kind of change is that change?
It's feels like a dramatic step change. It's like it's been trickling and suddenly bang, it's gone up.
So a dramatic step change.
Yeah.
And a bang, and it's gone up.
Yeah.
And is there anything else about that change?
It's surprising, I suppose, is the word. There's a slight element of disbelief that it's happened, but I know that it's happened. But it's kind of, I kind of wasn't expecting it to happen, or to happen this quickly.
So there's a disbelief and a surprise. And when a change like that, there's a bang, how would you like us to celebrate that with you?
Ooh, interesting. How would I like it? Celebrate. I think a kind of fist pump in the air and a yeehaw.
Yeehaw, right, okay. I might have to take your mutes off then, guys, as I'll be the only one screeching. I don't want to be on my own. Does it matter which hand?
It would be my right hand. Yes, your right hand.
Does that work? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so fist punch and a yeehaw.
Yeah.
Okay, ready, steady, go.
Yeah!
So when a fist punch like that, what happens?
It feels very good. It feels very, I think as Mary was saying, very affirming. It's like, say, being part of a family or a group celebrating. I mean, when you did my first celebration call, I felt quite uncomfortable about sort of celebrating with somebody else, because again, it was encouraging me to be more, to experiment with how to celebrate, and to celebrate in maybe a more exaggerated way than I would normally do. So I feel that I'm getting more used to that now, and I've definitely, you know, dare I say, feel like I'm coming out my shell a little bit in the celebration front.
Thanks for sharing. So
Okay.
Just Susie and Mary, what was that like for you, celebrating Gavin with a yeah?
It was great, but I think I pulled something in. Gavin's worth it.
I had to be careful because I've got a bad shoulder. So when you said the right, I was thinking I've done it before. I got carried away, and then I was like, that really hurts. So but apart from the fact you think you've pulled something, when you do a yay-ha, what happens for you?
Again, it's that supportive feeling, but it was, instead of like the big sort of like knot in the stomach, it was actually more something in the throat that time, whether it's because of the physical up higher or what, I don't know, but I actually felt it more there than down here this time.
Okay, so just be curious about that. And Mary, that was like what for you?
Okay. Well, luckily my bad shoulders were left shoulder, so I'm okay.
We're all right, look, aren't we?
No, it was great. It really felt like can't say I say yeehaw very often, so it was fun. I enjoyed it.
It was great and fun. And when celebrating with you like that, what happens for you, Gavin?
What happens to me? Well, I think one of the things I was writing down as we were all talking was this thing about this joint celebration, because I think I have in my head, I think if it's celebrating, it's something I do with, certainly in business related, on my own. So to actually share it with other people is really, it amplifies, it ramps up the whole thing.
And so when you get stronger with your after celebrating and it amplifies, what happens for you what happens for you, Susie? I'll just check what happens to you after joint sharing.
I end up crying, don't I?
Is there anything else about that crying? What kind of crying?
You actually asked us what that made us feel, and so the emotion was like what, and I said it's like butterflies and excitement and a feeling of success, because I always used to think that success was all about having lots of money and all these materialistic things, and to me, my idea of success is totally different. It's about doing what I want to do, both personally and in business, and I feel as though we have that. So that feeling of success, but still that little niggle just in the back of my head is also that fear of loss.
Okay, well, we have another coaching call booked. We'll work on that one later.
Yeah.
So that it kind of feels like it's 3:10. So I'm going to ask the question, is there anything else you'd like to know? So if you've got questions of each other about how you celebrate, if you want to know more about each other, then it's now your time to ask each other questions. So if the question is what would you like to know? And then we'll just check in and find out what we've learned. And more importantly, what will we do with this information? You know, what would you like to have happen going forward? So if I start with Mary. Is there anything else you'd like to know, either from myself or anybody else? Have you got questions for anybody?
I can think of nothing. I can think of lots of things, but I'm not quite sure what's the thing I want to ask now. No, I think it's just I just really enjoyed sharing the celebration and being together, because I've done it with you, Cheryl, which is again something I'm not all that good at, and it's great to be encouraged to get better at celebrating, or not to get better, to enjoy celebrating more maybe. And I do tend to do it by myself mostly for various reasons, as I said. Yeah, so I think I just love being here and enjoying the process and the company. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you. So, Gavin, is there anything you'd like to know? Of me or anybody else?
I would like to know. Something else I would like to know. I just, well, I don't know if it's kind of related. It's related to this thing about, you know, if you're kind of, you know, about bragging or bigging yourself up or you know, boasting in that sense with other people, is whether it's how other people cope with if they get that sense of that conflict between wanting to share something really positive, but that part of the holding them back, saying, yeah, but that voice in your head that says you're bragging, or you're going to upset more people if you share it publicly, then, you know, people are going to make judgments about you and you're pushy or whatever it might be. So does anybody else have any tips for how they, or if they feel that, and if so, what do they do about it?
Okay, over to you guys.
I've actually become very selfish, and I don't care. If it's something I feel like celebrating and something I want to share, I share it. If people don't like it, they can just ignore it.
Okay, so get selfish and you don't care. If they don't like it, they can ignore it. Mary, have you got any other strategies?
Yes, I think most people enjoy celebrating with others. It's partly the way in which you do it, and obviously we each do it differently, and people don't sometimes people say, I try not to use that phrase, tell you off, like like Susie used earlier, and Cheryl told her off, not told her off, but commented on the fact that it's almost that when I'm too reticent, people say, how well, you didn't tell us about that, why aren't you celebrating? So, for example, the book I finished last year during Karen's challenge in August and got published, and ages later somebody said, what happened to your book, did you bring it out? I said, oh yeah, it's done, you know, it's out there, you know. Well, you didn't tell us. Why didn't you tell us about it? And why didn't you have a launch party? And why didn't you celebrate? I said, oh well, it was just that, you know. So it's actually so interesting. So I was just, I mean, that's sort of gone that moment now, but I'll certainly make note in the future to actually say more, because they would actually have enjoyed. They were quite disappointed I hadn't given them the opportunity to celebrate with me.
Well, I'm just going to jump in on that one, Mary. When did you launch it?
Last year, just before Christmas.
Okay, so there's nothing stopping you having a first birthday party.
True.
Yeah. We could still celebrate.
Absolutely.
Never too late. Never too late.
Yeah.
I just want to share actually, Gavin, because what came up for me was I don't not celebrate publicly with people because I worry about other people thinking I'm boasting. My driver for not doing it as well and as often is because I worry about those people who are in a bad place, and that me keep going about all my success is going to make it hard for them. So and that's based on my map of the world, because when I was in a really bad place, I would just feel envious and jealous and resentful because everyone else seems to be doing it really easy, and I go on a training program and they'll tell you what to do. I'm on one now, and they tell you what to do, and then I can't do it that way, and everyone else is telling about all the successes they've got, and you're like, oh, but I can't do it, what's wrong with me? So it's like I have this kind of flip side, is that, well, if that's what other people's success is having on me, then me celebrating my success isn't going to be very nice for other people. So what I'm getting from this discussion is it's reminding myself of that whilst that will happen for some people, and I think it's also how my strategy is that I do my best to be as open as I can. So when I'm having a tough time and it's not working, I say that too. And when it is really working, I do it, but I also say how I got to where I got to, so that at least, so my strategy is that I'll share it, but I also want to give people some, for it to be useful for people, rather than it's just like, it was really easy, I just did it. It's like, actually, yesterday I had a tough day yesterday. It all went pear-shaped and I was like in tears and it's like all going wrong. And guess what it was about? Celebrating my frigging birthday. And it's not because I'm 50, because I don't have a thing about the age. It's because I have a 15th of December birthday and I've often not bothered to celebrate it. And I've decided this year I really, really want to. And actually, I don't know how to. Because I haven't got years and years of considering it. So that's the interesting part. But what I have worked out is what I don't like doing. And so it's kind of like I'm having to try new things on and find things. And the other bit I've picked up, Gavin, for you and for me with my weight, is I used to use food. And I do believe that it's because the food would give me a physical feeling. And so I'm definitely replacing it with more things like yoga and sharing with people and dancing and moving, because it's otherwise I become dependent on food as a way of actually telling my body something good's happened. But the food I give myself usually just tastes nice. It doesn't look good wearing it later. So it's like it. So it's been an interesting journey. That's looking at how I think food used to be something I gave myself almost as a quiet comfort. I can't celebrate it, so I'm going to take this food in. Whereas now I'm looking very more consciously to go, okay, if I was really celebrating this and taking care of myself, I'd have healthy food, because I'd be looking at the whole picture rather than just a bit of it. Okay, so we'll go round again now. We'll have a risk, shall we, of everybody being off, and just find out what you've learned from today about change and celebration. So what do you know now, and what difference does knowing that make? So, Susie, what do you know now?
I don't think it's necessarily anything new that I know, but it's interesting seeing how people do celebrate in totally different ways and how they feel accepting that congratulations from others. And it actually makes me feel a lot better to know that I'm not alone. You know, I'm not the only one that finds it awkward to take the compliments and to be able to sort of like sit and go, okay, yeah, actually that is all right. And I think that will help me to accept the compliments and that more in the future.
Yeah, and what I've just twigged as you said that is that one of the things that can counteract my hang up over it is that you said when someone celebrates with you, it helps you relive your own celebration again.
Yeah.
Whereas I've got my story I tell myself as it's going to make those that are sad really unhappy. I hadn't really quite twigged that by me celebrating, it could help somebody else relive their own celebrations. So therefore, it isn't just about me, which is quite a good way for me to do. It works for me better that way. So thanks for that one. What difference does knowing that make, Susie, if any?
I think it will actually make it easier to accept it that little bit more. I am slowly getting better. It's funny, I think it's a case of with people I'm very close to, I don't have a problem celebrating it and I can accept it. There are a couple of very close people who actually surprises me when I get it. So that in itself, because I don't get it often from them, when I do get it, it's like, whoa. And it kind of feels almost more important when I do get it, but at the same time, it's kind of like, why? Why that, but not that? But yeah, I think it just makes me, you know, I mean, it's like I have no problem with our monthly celebrations because I consider you a good friend as well, and I can open up to you. I think once I can open up to someone, I can accept the compliments, the feedback, whether it's positive or negative. It's if I don't know someone very well and they say it, that's when I feel a bit more awkward. And I think, obviously, I know Gavin, but I've never met Mary, and to be able to have that kind of cross celebration with someone who I've never met before actually makes that side of it a bit more comfortable.
Okay, So I'm going to leave you with it. I'm going to come back and ask you in a minute. Now that you know that, what would you like to have happen next? But I'm going to check with Mary first. So Mary, what do you know now?
Okay.
You're here.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that worked well for you, Susie, for a start. We haven't met before. What do I know now? I think partly the thing you said about the person who just liked the really quiet celebration. That was, I mean, that's always how I've been in the past, and maybe I don't need to change too much, but just a little bit more. And that's partly what my husband's like. I know that, I accept that. You know, he likes the two of us celebrate things. He doesn't want anybody else involved in his celebrations. It doesn't mean he's sometimes not very considerate of others who do like to celebrate differently. So that's about him, not me. That's fine. That's his issue. So what do I know now? I think the shared thing here in the group is, because we're probably talking about business successes mostly, and you'll talk about your birthday. It's that being able to celebrate in different ways and to share it and be acknowledged for what we're achieving and telling the story along the way. And that's partly about sharing and getting to know each other helps with that as well, because we see the distance that people have moved to achieve that celebration. Having people to witness that in the various communities that I belong to is what's really helping me.
So what difference does knowing that make, if any?
It's a sort of freedom, I think. It's just a freedom to do it as I want, the same as other things in business now. I'm free to do things as I want, and so I can celebrate as I want and choose. And sometimes I do it with food, and sometimes I don't. You know? Quite often it's going out somewhere nice, and I'm so fortunate to live in such a beautiful place. So it's taking some time off, and sometimes that's because I'm celebrating, sometimes it's because I actually need the rest and the break, and I allow myself both sides of it now. So even with a busy week, I've allowed myself various things, some things like this, which has been great, and things like going out yesterday and getting totally away from the desk and computer, which is good too.
Fab. Thanks for sharing. So Gavin, what do you know now?
Well, I know now that there, or I'm more aware of the benefits of sharing with other people more and finding like-minded people who I can do that and feel comfortable doing that. I think it's got me thinking about, you know, how do I celebrate, different ways of celebration. And again, that comment about it, you know, you don't have to be, you don't have to do it the way everybody else does it. You can find your own way to do it. And that's got me thinking about with other people as well, you know, not imposing my views on other people. And I've got a note down to have a chat with my wife about, because I don't think we've really ever sat down and had a conversation about how do we like to celebrate. So, you know, that's I'm looking forward to having a chat about that, exploring that.
What difference does knowing that make, if any?
I think it makes me feel, well, it makes it makes celebration a more relevant topic. I mean, it sounds a terrible thing to say, but it makes it more relevant, and it's aroused my curiosity about wanting to explore what celebration actually means to me. I mean, the word celebration, and, you know, Mary was saying about, well, sometimes it's celebrating, sometimes it's taking just a break or time off. I'm thinking, well, actually, that is a form of celebration. You know, we're just getting some quiet time out in the countryside or by the sea or whatever, and just celebrating life and being alive is a fantastic achievement. And I think sometimes some people can be so busy in with their businesses and so on, they don't actually take time to just celebrate that they are human, and maybe even celebrate our mistakes sometimes. Maybe we should celebrate our mistakes more, as long as we, you know, then learn from them rather than trying to cover them up and hide them and pretend they don't happen.
Thanks for sharing that.
Okay.
Something came up for me then. I've lost it again now. Hopefully it'll come back in a minute. I think it was about, actually, I think the thing that I've just taken from it really is it's about the frequency, but also what we decide to celebrate. And I know when you look in a sort of corporate world, they have what they call KPIs, they have, you know, key performance. So there's things that you can indicate. And one of the things I've noticed when I'm celebrating with clients is that if they're only form of celebration is based on numbers. So it can be like in the scales, you like your weight loss going down, or your birthday, that's a 0. You know, only do special birthdays 30, 40, 50. Got a long time to wait in between if you don't celebrate the other ones. I think you've got 10 years. But also, like, if you're doing milestones in the business, like profit margin and numbers. And I think that what I've noticed, and I hadn't consciously been aware of until you were talking, was that I've been much better recently noticing the change in how I feel and celebrating that. So if I was more stressed before, but I'm calmer now, and actually it is about, for me, it's about consciously appreciating, might be another word I might use, that's actually effectively celebrating, is nature, you know, and my own breath, the fact that I can breathe and that I can walk, and noticing those things. So what I've realized is that the word paying attention comes to mind, that it's about paying attention to what, as we talk about what's working muscle quite a lot in the manager critic community. But the more I focus on that what's working, the more I have to celebrate. So and the more, and I think people talk about gratitude and appreciation, and actually I think that's what I've realized is that my birthday is probably what I was struggling against. I was trying to make it this, you know, probably based on other people's thing, like a big party. And I've got lots of people, but I've got lots of people who like different things. Okay, Mary, no problem, darling. Speak to you soon. Thank you for joining us. So that's so yeah, that's what I'm gaining from it, is that, again, this thing to do your celebrations however you want to do it. So given that all that, and we'll probably call it a day now, as it's 25 past. Susie and Gavin, with what you know now, what would you like to have happen next?
I like the idea of having these on a semi-regular basis. I don't know whether monthly would be too often, but slightly different format to what we've done today, that it actually being kind of the small groups of, you know, the likes of us that we're here together now, and keeping in contact, having a regular meetup of, you know, what have you got to celebrate this month or this quarter or something like that, so you can see the constant, you know, and it builds that relationships and builds that comfort zone, and, you know, so you can kind of see the progress and see how other people are getting on still, because you meet once and you might not meet again.
Yeah. So so you'd like to have these more often. Probably once a month isn't really enough, but maybe quarterly. Okay, I've noted that. Gavin, what would you like to have happen next?
I think two kind of different areas. One, you know, I want, in a purely selfish point of view, I want to have more to celebrate, and so part of that is, you know, to do that I need to keep focusing on and following my plan and focusing what I want, what I'm achieving, keeping my direction going. But it's also what you said, it's about keeping doing the reviews and noticing when I'm achieving things, so that I can celebrate even those small gains. Because, as you say, I think that struck with me was, you know, when you start to look for things to celebrate, or you start to look for what's changed, there is more there to celebrate. Because otherwise it's so easy to filter that sort of thing out. I tend to agree with Susie in terms of, I think it would be nice to keep these going on a semi-regular basis. And I think from what Susie was saying, at least that what I took was that interesting to almost explore and to help each other explore what made it a celebration for you, and to almost explore that with a view to not to unpicking it, but really to amplifying that the positives from it, and helping each other. If we're, well, it wasn't really that big a thing, but I achieved this, and then, you know, by asking questions, you might say, well, actually, you know, how many people actually do that in their lives? Or so you know, so to keep feeding that, particularly when you're not used to doing it.
Yeah. Okay. So my intention is that the Zoom party that's in Manage the Critic, which obviously you guys are clients and you've come, we've got the private mentoring group and you've been invited, and also I've got the public Manage the Critic group. So I will want to do one that invites everybody to it at least once a quarter. So, and I suspect, because it's around the same time, it's the Friday, the 15th of December, is a quarter from now, and it's my 50th. So that I may well I might just do a Zoom party. It'd be rude not to. I am actually
You get to wear
celebrating.
party hats.
Yeah, it might have to be 1 till 3, and it might even work doing it over lunchtime anyway, and having, you know, get people to bring their food and snacks, and they'll all be okay to eat, and we'll have a celebration in that format. And also want to encourage you guys as well, though, that particularly if you want the smaller groups, because what I'd really like is for this to be a screen full of hundreds of people celebrating and getting into the habit and spreading the word about, you know, if we can manage that critic, because it is that one, you know, what if it goes wrong? What do they think about us? If we can't bring that joy to the world and celebrate what's going well, then there's all this good factor that we're feeling now from this experience that's not going to happen in the world. But I also strongly encourage you guys to get together yourselves. So, you know, don't feel you have to wait for me to put it on. Don't get you, Mary, and because I imagine it's going to be a beast of people, and I cannot be there for everybody, but I depend on you guys. You know, set up your meetings, and if you're happy to put on Zoom and record it and then stick it in the group and say this is our celebration call today, then it will get amplified, because you can get everybody else to watch your video, and then they can put their comments, and so the celebrations that are going on and the questions that you can get from it can really start to. That's what I think will happen. It will ignite it, and then we can keep going. And I'm planning to do an online program, which will probably start middle of October, which is 8 modules, one a week, and that'll be small group mastermind groups. And the 8th one is always going to be the celebration call. So there's opportunities for other people to get involved if they need to do more of the unpacking stuff first to get to the point where they're comfortable. You guys have done a bit of work with me, so you're a bit more used to. If you're still stuck, anyone's watching this and you find it really hard to celebrate yourself, it's be mindful of the guys that have very kindly come here. It wasn't set up this way, by the way. I didn't put it all out for everyone to come. It just happens to be these guys are here. But does that tell us that we are all struggling with celebration? You know, does it feel uncomfortable that people haven't come to the call because maybe they don't feel they have got anything to celebrate this week or month, or they feel that that's not, you know, it's a bit awkward, or if that's what stopped people from coming, then I'll leave you guys to put something under the video about the journey you've been on to get to the point where you're comfortable to celebrate. Because you're living
say actually that's a testament to you and what you do, though, Cheryl, because the fact that we have worked with you, you know, we are now at that stage where we are more curious and looking into things, and therefore we are more comfortable celebrating than we were, certainly than when I started working with you almost 2 years ago.
Thank you. Just so you know, I'm now getting emotional. So, hey ho, I've still got to take my own advice. The T for clarity is a pain in the neck. So I'm teaching you guys, and I've still managed to avoid doing it for myself today. So you've got in there, Susie, so thank you. But again, I suppose it's just sharing with other people, because I want everybody to know that whilst we are in this really great place, it's been a journey for each of us to get here. I know that Gavin, yours has been quicker than you expected, and I know certainly when we worked 18 months ago, Susie was saying, oh, I can't go to Catalonia for at least 2 years, and 6 months later she was there.
10 weeks later.
Huh?
Yeah.
10 weeks.
10 weeks later.
10 weeks. It's all your fault.
It was my fault. Why I have to go and visit her.
Yeah.
Hard job, but someone's got to do it. So I just want to thank you very much for joining me to celebrate today and get curious about celebrations. I will always start the Zoom parties with the question, who are you, where are you from, and what would you like to know, or what do you want to get from today's call? So if you come back and you say, oh, well, I want to know how Susie got on with whatever, you know, you will be creating the format for the calls anyway. So I'm here to listen, but my job will be to keep change and celebrating it in any way, shape or form we can. So lots of love to you all. Thank you so much for today. And I will
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Susie.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.